As of a week ago, the Kenobi series' final episode, episode 6, was released on Disney+, bringing the Kenobi series to an end, which means that it is now time for me to review it. What did I like, what did I dislike, and how do I feel about the show overall? Now, I want to start off by saying that this show has been one of my most anticipated Star Wars projects ever. Like, it's been one of the shows that I have been the most excited for, because it's a show about Obi-Wan Kenobi overcoming his fears and overcoming his trauma from Revenge of the Sith while getting to have an emotional rematch with Darth Vader, played by Hayden Christensen. I mean, it's a big deal, and it's a show that I have been extremely excited for. I mean, you're bringing back Ewan McGregor finally after like 17 years. It's a big deal, and it's an exciting moment. And this is a show that I have been greatly anticipating. And while the show is, of course, far from perfect, I feel like after seeing that final episode, I'm pretty satisfied. My opinion on the show was definitely brought up by that finale, by that final episode. Episode 6, personally for me, was an amazing episode, and I personally loved it. And I gotta say, while the show is far from perfect, I can definitely say that I feel like, overall, it definitely nailed the important parts, which is Kenobi and Vader. When the show is at its best, it's some of the best Star Wars content that Disney has ever produced. But when it's not, I find that the show can be kind of lacking. Even the best episodes of the series still have little small things that stop it from being perfect, that hold it back from perfection, and just little things that bug me and bother me and that mess with canon or that feel out of character for people, or the things that just don't entirely make sense, that when you stop to think about them, they just end up bugging you. So what I'm going to do right now is do a quick rundown of each and every episode of this series individually to see what I liked and didn't like. So starting off with episode 1, great episode. Really solid, a really solid start to the show, really helped set up the future of it, really did a great job at showing Obi-Wan's broken mentality and his trauma from Revenge of the Sith. I loved seeing Bail Organa show up at the end and pretty much tell Obi-Wan that he needs to go help Leia, and that, you know, he needs to forget the past, he needs to move on, and that he couldn't save Anakin. I love seeing that. I loved seeing that final shot where Obi-Wan shows off his lightsaber as he goes to help Leia. A lot of cool moments there, a lot of cool stuff, and an overall really solid episode. But again, it's not perfect. So there is some stuff, you know, the Leia chase scene, which was honestly just pretty terrible, very unrealistic. It just looks fake. There was also the surviving Jedi, which was a really cool idea, but it didn't feel very realistic in the way it was presented, and honestly just felt sort of forced. That being said, a really solid episode, and a great start to the show. Overall, very good. Then we go on to episode 2. Now, I find episode 2 to be kind of lacking in a lot of areas. I mean, it had some cool moments for sure, and I definitely loved that planet called Dayu, the Hong Kong-inspired planet. Such a cool location. But I found there's a lot of dumb little things that really bothered me. Like, for example, I found Reva to be very annoying. I found that Leia trying to run away from Obi-Wan and not trusting him just felt very out of character for her and just felt like an odd thing to put in there. Also, when Reva stabs the Grand Inquisitor, I got so, thrown by that and was so off-putting, and that I was in such a bad mood and kind of pissed off from it, that when they showed that really cool final scene with Darth Vader, the final little cliffhanger, I was just already too mad to really even enjoy it, which is so upsetting to me. And it's such a cool moment, but of course that little thing with the Grand Inquisitor really just threw me off. So while it had some cool stuff, I definitely think episode 2 was the weakest of the series. Also, one other thing that I wanted to point out about this show, I think that little Leia is perfect. I think it was the perfect casting. The actress is doing an amazing job, and I think it's like just the perfect 10-year-old Princess Leia. And then we go into episode 3. Now, personally, of the first 3 episodes, this one's my favorite. I think it's definitely the best. I loved seeing Vader. I loved seeing how beast mode he was in the town, with choking all the people and killing all of them and trying to find Obi-Wan and just sort of trying to lure him out by, just going ham on all those different people in the town. Such a cool idea. I loved seeing, Leia and Obi-Wan kind of go through that desert planet, take that transport with the stormtroopers. A lot of little fun, cool character moment stuff there as well. And then, of course, the Vader and Kenobi fight. While I did find this fight to not be the greatest fight I've ever seen before, not the best choreography by far or anything like that, it was the first fight, and they are going to have 2 fights, so that kind of did make me enjoy it a lot more. And Obi-Wan's pretty rusty, so I sort of accepted that fight was not going to be anything special, anything amazing in terms of choreography, but it was a very cool fight. I loved the lightsabers. They looked so cool. I just think that, those lines like, "What have you become? I am what you made me," that kind of stuff. Very, very cool moments there. A lot of cool stuff, and overall, a really solid episode. And of course, when Vader, drags Obi-Wan through the fire, such a cool moment. And yes, there was that small controversy around why Vader did not walk through the fire or use the Force to pull Obi-Wan towards him once Obi-Wan was being rescued, and why Vader just let Obi-Wan go and just didn't walk through the fire. But there are a lot of reasons that people have come up with as to why this was, and overall it is a small detail, and I feel like it doesn't take away from the episode. Still, think it was an amazing episode, and was by far the best episode so far. Alright, and then we move on to episode 4. So personally, I definitely enjoyed episode 4. I think it was a very solid episode. It wasn't perfect, there were some weird things here and there that didn't make a lot of sense, but overall, a very fun, solid episode, a very classic Star Wars adventure, which I definitely enjoyed. I loved seeing Obi-Wan sort of regain his strength in terms of, his lightsaber skills and his ability with the Force, and kind of regaining that strength was really exciting to see. And I loved him exploring Fortress Inquisitorius. My only really complaints actually stem from not quite the episode itself. My main issues with this episode stemmed more from what they didn't do than what they did do. Because, think about this. In the last episode, Kenobi just fought Vader for the first time in 10 years and got burnt. He got, very emotionally hit by it. It's a big deal. And I feel like he recovers way too quickly. And that's sort of an issue, I think, that comes with having only 6 episodes in a show. If there were 7 episodes, I think it would have been much better, because what you could have done is you could have had, for example, a lot more time for him to recover, both physically and emotionally, and then afterwards, then he can go rescue Princess Leia after that. And what's sort of upsetting to me is that throughout the episode, you can see many places and opportunities where they could have explored that more, where they could have had him have more nightmares, and maybe show some Clone Wars flashbacks, and help sort of flesh out his trauma and his recovery from episode 3. For example, when he's going to the Rebel base and he's struggling to stay awake, I would have loved if he sort of phased out and went into some nightmare, which maybe cut to then a Clone Wars flashback. There's a lot of stuff that I think they could have focused on in that episode that they didn't, and I feel like it would have been better if they had, maybe more time to focus on his recovery from that fight, maybe half an episode or a full episode, and then they can go rescue Princess Leia. And I think they just needed more time in the show. I think they needed either longer episodes, at least for this one, or they just needed to have an extra episode. And personally, I think that would have been much better. That being said, the episode itself was very solid. I definitely enjoyed it. It was very fun, and definitely had a lot of cool moments. And now, with only 1 episode left until the finale, it is time to talk about episode 5. Now, personally, this is the best episode so far, at least for me. A lot of cool moments, a lot of great character stuff. I loved seeing those pre-Attack of the Clones flashbacks between Obi-Wan and Anakin. I loved that it was one kind of full narrative that was stretched across the entire episode. And I gotta be honest, it just actually fleshes out the story so much. We get to see more of their relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin. We get to see more, little hints of Anakin's kind of impulsiveness, and sort of hints towards his turning to the dark side, as well as just getting to see a really cool lightsaber fight with a really great choreography. Such a great moment. I loved, those stuff, that scene between the doorway with Reva and Obi-Wan. And of course, when Vader catches that ship at the end and holds it back with the Force, such a cool moment. Also, the episode fixes a bunch of the issues that I was having with the show, which was really nice to see. First of all, how the Grand Inquisitor somehow was able to get stabbed by Reva in the first place, even if he did survive, just seemed so unrealistic. But it was so nice to see that, in fact, he actually let her stab him, and that he was actually playing her the entire time, which is also why Vader was acting kind of out of character and so nice to her. He was also playing her just to get Obi-Wan, which is also explains first of all, how did Reva know that Vader and Anakin were the same person, and also how, when she knew this, how Vader did not know that she knew this, because obviously if Vader was aware of that, he would not like it. But the fact of the matter is, he knew it, and he was again playing her. And a bunch of these things really felt like a relief to me for the show, and I really liked seeing that they actually weren't as sloppy as I thought they were in terms of the writing. That was very, very nice to see. My only really complaint was that at the very end, when Vader has that sick fight between him and Reva, he just stabs her and then doesn't check if she's actually dead, and of course she's not, which felt very silly to me and very a very odd thing. Also, when she was fighting him, and that was such a cool fight, by the way, just seeing him best her, I thought he was going to take those 2 sabers and actually go full on Count Dooku style and just do a beheading, but they didn't do that, obviously. But, you know, I just found it a little bit odd that that was the decision, that was the route that they took, and that they pretty much had Vader just not check if she was actually dead. But besides that, a very solid episode, a very fun episode, and had a lot of great character stuff, a lot of really cool stuff. Alright, and we are finally now moving on to episode 6, the season finale. Personally, I think this is the best episode by far of any of them. It is just the most epic, the most emotional, and it's just a very satisfying end to the season. First of all, we had an outstanding, amazing lightsaber duel between Vader and Obi-Wan. I love that location, that planet that they're on. I just think the choreography was amazing for the duel. I loved seeing Obi-Wan kind of with his regained strength. And of course, that final scene when Obi-Wan, you know, slices open Vader's mask, and we get to hear Hayden Christensen's voice, but intercut and mixed with James Earl Jones' voice. My heart pretty much stopped during that moment. Like, I was just frozen, and it was such a cool moment. Such an amazing, it was the scene that this show really needed, and I'm really glad that they put that in there. I also love, you know, that final, you know, second half of the episode when Obi-Wan goes back to Tatooine. We get to see him sort of like with his, you know, his new sort of more hopeful Alec Guinness type character with his, you know, with his new outfit, and we get to finally see him meet Luke, and he says, "Hello there." Also, seeing Qui-Gon at the very end was a very cool moment as well. Also, I love that scene in Vader's castle when he's speaking to Palpatine. That was such a cool moment, and I gotta be honest, like, Ian McDiarmid as Palpatine, so cool. I loved that scene so much. So epic. The weakest part of the episode for sure was the Reva subplot when she chases Luke. But if I'm being honest, I didn't actually hate it that much. It was actually alright. It was pretty good. Obviously, it was nowhere near as amazing as the lightsaber duel, but overall, I definitely think it was alright. I didn't hate it. I liked seeing more Luke, more Owen, and more Aunt Beru. That was definitely something that really made it a lot more bearable for me, and something that I think made me enjoy it a lot more, seeing more of those characters and stuff. And I do like that scene when Obi-Wan kind of talks to Reva, and you can just see how it does actually support his character a little bit, to see how he sort of helps her move on. That being said, I feel like in itself, her character over these 6 episodes really does not work very well. It feels like I can see what they were going for, but it overall doesn't feel like a very successful storyline to me. They're trying to take this character and tell her story over only 6 episodes in a show that's already about Obi-Wan and Vader. Like, it's gonna be very difficult to try and tell that story, and I personally feel like this may have not been the right place to do it, but, you know, I see what they were going for. It doesn't really work that very well for me, and I feel like dark side users becoming light side users is a little bit cliche at this point. I mean, when done really well, it's amazing, but like when it's just sort of like done like this, it's not really anything new, not anything. It doesn't really change your life at all, because you've seen it already, and there's nothing new to uncover, nothing new to impact you, because we've seen some of the most impactful emotional ways that dark side users have redeemed with themselves, like Vader's redemption. So it's gonna be pretty hard to impact the audience in the same way when we've already seen this type of storyline be told multiple times in really beautiful ways. Overall, this episode was amazing. It was by far the best episode of them all. It was truly beautiful, and honestly, my opinion of this show went up after seeing this final episode. It's just that good, and personally, I think this episode made the series honestly quite satisfying. So that is my full in-depth review of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. I hope you did enjoy it. Let me know what your thoughts on the show are down in the comments below. I would love to know what you think of the series, and leave a like if you did enjoy it. I'll see you all very soon. May the Force be with you.